welcome to the Battery Mates podcast. I am Dirty Dave. That is the Sandman, Sean, over there. Sean, happy Monday. We're doing a Monday recording again this week. How things been treating you, my man?
Man, not too bad, man. We are a little less than 2 weeks away from pitchers and catchers reporting, and the stove has heated up a little bit. None of the huge names. We've got a bunch of moves that have happened in the last 7 days since we recorded last week. So stove's heating up, man. Weather's heating up. It was almost like a spring day down here today. So I don't got any complaints there. It's getting that feeling where it's like we're almost to baseball. We're almost to baseball. So I've got no complaints, Dave.
Absolutely. We've only talked about the stove eventually having to heat up for, 9-10 weeks straight now. So finally we were right. But we're baseball fans. We know 3 out of 10 is a good number. So, the last 3 of the last 10 weeks have been pretty hot as far as the stove goes. I think we're doing pretty well for ourselves. Now, Sean, I do have a new little thing I want to start off each show with, if you're okay with it. I have a Braves trivia question for you. What do you say?
Let's give it a shot. Knowing you though, I don't even have confidence in myself to know the answer. I know like your level of baseball knowledge, and like I've seen like your immaculate grids and stuff over the last week since we started that this week.
I've been kind of cooking up a little bit. Okay, I have been a couple of 4s and 5s. Yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna.
I'm a little concerned there, but
no,
you know what? I'll take the risk of looking like a dum
you won't.
This episode off.
All right, so I was on baseball Reddit today, our baseball, and I saw a graphic that was posted. Actually, my buddy Victor, who made the logo for our show, actually sent it to our group chat just because he thought it was a cool little graphic. So the graphic is since 2000, it's every team's worst performance based on B-WAR, so their WAR from Baseball Reference. And a Braves player has the 4th worst season of any player since 2000, according to BREF WAR. And I will give you the year and the WAR. I'll also tell you it is a position player, not a pitcher.
Okay.
So in 2010, this Braves player got a negative 2.7 WAR, and it is the worst season by a Brave since 2000. What player do you think had that WAR that season?
2010, a -2 WAR.
Almost -3. I mean, that's a bad season.
Yeah, that's not good. That's not good.
He also only played in about 80 games, so that might help narrow it down a little bit and also prove just how bad he was because he only played half the season.
That's bad.
Mm-hmm.
That's bad.
I can give you any hints that you want without giving it away. You just let me know if you need.
Give me another hint or two.
All right. He was an outfielder. And this was a player who the Braves acquired the previous season at the trade deadline.
2010 outfielder acquired at the deadline.
Mostly played center field as well.
I don't know. You're gonna have to tell me.
All right, I feel like it's one more hint. See if you get this, and if not, then just say no, and I'll give you the answer. He's very white, blonde hair, white skin. He speaks some of the best Spanish you've ever seen a white person speak in your entire life. He has like an accent and everything.
I don't know.
Nate McClouth.
Oh my god, dude, that's a name. I don't know the last time I've heard that name, but that is something I will never forget that now. But holy cow, that's bad.
McClouth. He had a rough 2010, but that's
dude.
If it means anything, 2011 he bounced back with a 228 average and drove in 16 whole runs. He batted 190 in 2010 with an OPS plus, very nice number of 69. So that was rough season for Nate.
That is rough.
Yeah, not good. But yeah, I'll probably come up with some little basic trivia
Yeah,
every week
yeah.
just to get Braves fans a little something to think about before they start listening to our show. If you are listening to our show right now, that means you probably found us on either Spotify or YouTube. We are on both of those things. If you're following and listening to us on Spotify, give us a follow on YouTube. Give us a like over there. You can see our smiling faces. Let's give a wave to the camera, Sean. I got you in the middle of a drink. I'm sorry. If you're watching us on YouTube and you don't want to see those awkward interactions, you can just listen to us on Spotify. Give us a follow there. We're also on all social media. We are on Twitter/X. We're on Facebook. We are on TikTok. We are on Instagram now. That's brand new. Sean, I saw you dropping on there. We've been pretty active on all social media. Actually, I have to say, I've been dropping some stuff on TikTok. We're dropping some Facebook posts. We've been posting our immaculate grids every day. You've been having really good discussions about the Braves on Twitter. So, we're all kind of getting in the tune of things. Everyone's excited for baseball. So we're all ready to discuss the game we love. And we're going to start doing that right now by talking about some of those hot stove moves that you had mentioned a little bit earlier. There's really only one Brave related move, which is crazy because if you're an Atlanta Braves fan, you might also be a fan of other Atlanta teams, and every other Atlanta team has had a crazy week. So much excitement going on in Atlanta. The Falcons have a new coach, Raheem Morris. Not a good news. Oh, you didn't like that one, Sean. I saw that look. Give him a chance, my man. Give him a chance.
But
And if you're an Atlanta,
he had a chance and we let him walk. I mean, that's how highly we thought of him. So he had a chance and we let him walk. So, I
yeah,
mean,
that's
whatever.
That's fair. Less exciting, even than that, is the fact that Luka Doncic walked into Atlanta and dropped 73 points the other day. That was an impressive game. I watched all that one. But Atlanta, the Braves said, we won't be outdone. Darn it, we're gonna trade for, drumroll please, JP Martinez, who we all expected to be an Atlanta Brave coming into this season, of course. Traded for Tyler Owens. JP Martinez, a bat for the outfield. He's on the 40-man roster, going to compete for one of the spots coming out of spring training. Sean, any immediate reaction to JP Martinez? Did you do the same thing I did and said, why did the Braves just get JD Martinez? Only to see that it was the wrong initials. I'm not proud to admit that happened, but it did.
I don't think you're alone in that, Dave. I think there was probably plenty of people. You see the blue box of death. That's what Braves Twitter now calls those announcements. The blue box of death. You saw it. It was easy to jump to that JD Martinez, and you're like, what are we doing? But no, to be honest, I mean, obviously, like we've talked about over the last couple of weeks, there's not going to be a big move for the Braves in the next few weeks. Just not going to happen, which is great. We're in a good spot. There's not a lot of teams that can be like, hey, we're set, we're good, we're kosher. So I do like it though. Left-handed outfielder. He carried a 963 OPS in AAA last year with 41 stolen bases and was only caught stealing 4 times. So decent bat, good speed, pretty good outfielder. You can do worse for your fourth outfielder, and a guy there on the bench. So he is on the 40 man, so he will compete for that kind of that last bench spot. And so I'm kind of excited to see if they bring in a right hander to kind of compete with him to see, maybe somebody like Kevin Pillar, who they've talked about. But I like it for what it is. We knew AA was going to have to fill out these last few bench spots, the last few 40-man spots, and I kind of think that's what he's been doing. So I like it. Not going to blow the socks off of anybody or anything by any means, but it's one of those things that we kind of knew was coming, and for what it is, I like it.
Yeah, it's a good move. Again, just add depth, give guys a chance. I feel like, again, we talk about all the time the Braves, where if you perform, you're going to get your opportunity. Well, that's a team that doesn't do that same thing. They're not a team that goes and says, "Oh, you're killing in AAA. Well, you're getting a chance now in the majors." They're more of a more traditional sense of, no, we're going to keep him down until we got to bring him up, sort of guy. So they saw an opportunity to get him for basically nothing and give him a chance. What's the worst that happens? I don't think Tyler Owens is somebody who is on anybody's radar as like a must have. You cannot get rid of this guy sort of
Mm-mm.
player. So if you give him up for nothing and you get something in return that you're like, let's give him a chance. Worst that happens is it doesn't work out. Okay, it was probably wasn't going to work out with Tyler Owens either. So I'm
Right.
not going to be too worried about that move, even if it doesn't go the way you want it to go. Um, but yeah, I mean, his minor stats are really good. He played. I actually watched him in person once. I realized that recently. I used to live in Round Rock, where the Round Rock Express play, and he was at Round Rock at that time. So I did. I went back. I was like, did I? And I looked at. And I was like, oh wow, okay. I've actually seen this guy play before. So that makes me excited to see him. That's good. But yeah, not a move that's gonna make or break anything. I don't think that's a move that puts anybody over the top. Um, we did have some teams make moves that might get them over the top, though, and I want to give a special little segment here to Brave legend Jock Peterson. Mr. Jockery is now an Arizona Diamondback, staying out in the NL West. He is 60% of the way through the National League West, by the way, if you're keeping track at home. And he signs a deal out there in Arizona with the defending National League pennant winning Diamondbacks. I know you're a big Jock guy, as everyone from Atlanta should be. So, what do you think about that move for Jock and for Arizona?
I think it's a really good move. When you look at the rotation of the other teams in the National League West, I think the Giants have one left-handed starter. I think the Dodgers have one left-handed starter. And so Colorado, you kind of don't really care. You're not too worried about what they're trotting out there. So when you look at matchups and what they need Jock to be, um, I think it's a great move for him. I think it's a great move for the Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks have had a pretty good offseason, considering, they didn't just say, hey, we kind of had a great run. We kind of put it all together, and we won 84 games, but then we swept the Dodgers and we beat the Phillies. It wasn't one of those things where they kind of just set on that and said, okay, well, all the guys are coming back, and we beat our window by a couple years, so we'll just kind of stick with it. It was like, okay, hey, look, we can compete now. So you go and get Erod, you go and get Jock, you go and make a couple of moves like that, and now all of a sudden, um, you're building on that. And so I think the Diamondbacks have had a good offseason. I think it's a good move for Jock. And, my thing is that, just he's not on the Phillies or the Mets. So keep him out west. I don't ever want to have to root against him that many times in a year.
Yeah.
And so, but I think it's a good move on both sides.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. We're happy for Jock. We always want to see him have success. Again, unless he's on Philly or the Mets. The Phillies officially lost somebody this week, Rhys Hoskins, who nobody expected to come back anyways, but he did sign a deal. He went to the Milwaukee Brewers, a team who just won their division. And of course, always are a team that you have to watch out for come playoff time with some of the guys at the top of their rotation. A couple moves in the division. Adam Ottavino goes to the Mets. Joey Gallo goes to the Nationals. A big name on a team that you don't expect to do very much. You talked about the lefty for the Dodgers. James Paxton signs a deal out there to pitch for the Dodgers for a year, kind of taking that role before Ohtani takes his spot in the rotation next year. And then the Cubs, a team who we thought we'd be watching a little bit more this offseason, made one of their first real big splashes. They did sign somebody a couple weeks ago, but they get Hector Neris to add to their bullpen. Sean, any of those moves that you really stand out to you, think they might impact what the Braves do in 2024?
As far as what the Braves do, not really. I'm kind of wondering if the Dodgers are like saying, "Hey, let's have 10 starting pitchers and hope that they each start 15 games." Um, they've got Mister Glass now, and Paxton, who's had some injury issues and things like that. So, but I mean, I think that's a good move for the Dodgers. All jokes aside, I think it's a good move for them. I like Hoskins going to the Brewers. First of all, if I never see the clip of him hitting the home run off Strider ever again, it would not be soon enough. So the one thing that the Phillies can now all they've got is Bryce Harper hitting the one off Elder last year. So, gets him out of the division. But I think it's a good fit for both sides. Um, but yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily think any of it is overly going to affect what Atlanta does, or anything like that. But I do think there's a couple of good moves in there for the teams that are making the moves, and and again, it's just the stove's heating up. I mean, heck, we had the trade that happened just before we came onto the air. Jorge Polanco was traded from the
Ooh.
Twins to the Mariners, and they got a pretty good haul back for him. And so I'm just glad the stove's heating up. I'm glad we're getting some action. People are signing. So now it's time for Bellinger, Montgomery, Snell. Let's see where they're going. Although if Snell doesn't change what he's asking for, I don't know that he's going to pitch next year.
No, I mean the numbers he's looking at are absolutely crazy. But also, I mean, that's a two-time Cy Young Award winning lefty. I mean, does he not
He
deserve?
doesn't pitch, he doesn't pitch past the fifth inning, man. Like, you're going to pay somebody $270 million over 9 years. Like, I don't need somebody that I'm going to have to use three or four bullpen guys to come follow every outing. Like, if I'm giving you that kind of money, I need a top of the line guy that's going to go out and throw 7, 8 innings, 6 innings at worst,
Yeah.
and who's going to shorten the bullpen. I don't need to pay $270 million for a guy that's going to lengthen the bullpen.
No, for sure. That's a very good point. I also heard Cody Bellinger has not gotten any formal offers. No team has given him even like a, hey, we're going to put this contract in front of you, mull it over. So it's not like he's weighing options. He doesn't have any options to weigh. So what I'm saying is that welcome to Atlanta, Cody Bellinger. Take a
Yeah,
1 year
yeah,
deal, come on down, use a little, another lefty bat in the lineup. Who says no, right?
little,
um, no,
little
we're not
Scott
breaking that
Boras.
news.
No, no. But I think it does. It shows you. It's not a coincidence that the big name guys that are still out there are all Boris clients, and so I just think. But I also think, and I like to see, like, I like that Bellinger hasn't gotten an offer. I like that Snell's only offer was like a 6 year, I don't whatever it was from the Yankees, 6 years, 180 or 150 or something like that. Nothing close to what he's asking for. We've heard nothing on Montgomery. So to me, it's almost like the teams are finally saying, "Look, Scott, we're not going to play this game with you. Like, this is what we're willing to spend, and we're gonna go find it somewhere else." And so I'm really interested to kind of see how all those shake out, and how his clients and how all of that, where they actually end up and what they actually end up getting, and what they kind of have to settle for.
Yeah, it's crazy when you hear stuff like that, and then you think about all the times we have been asking for the stove to heat up, and it's like, no, it's literally like one or two agents that are just pushing their guys to wait, and asking for so much money. The teams are just like, I'm not even interested. I'm out.
Hmm.
It kind of puts a different viewpoint to me on this offseason that we've talked about how slow it is and how boring it is. And to find out it has nothing to do with the players, it's not guys that are sitting there saying, no, I'm not going to sign with this. It's literally just like the agents are not fielding offers, the agents are asking for too much money. And, I mean, these big name agents, they've been a problem for a long time, I think. Scott Boras, I mean, he's run the sport of baseball for how long now? I like teams finally saying, no, it's not going to happen. I do always side with players and union and stuff like that when it comes to, I want players to make their money, but I also don't want Scott Boras to be able to decide who wins the World Series because he controls every free agent and he could basically make deals that benefit himself, and say, hey, the Yankees want to give me X amount of money to bring our top three guys over. I'm going to make my guys sign that deal now, because that absolutely could happen. So I like them kind of monopoly busting, I guess you could say, and saying, no, these two agents are not going to decide who wins the World Series every year. Um, I like that, but I also side with the players. I want them to get paid a fair value, and I'll never root for billionaires over millionaires. So I mean, somebody's got to step in and sign these guys soon enough, or we'll see what happened a few years ago where we had like three guys sign in April or May, and the Braves came out really good in that because they got a starter that they rode to a playoff berth. So If that's the case, who knows? Maybe your guy Blake Snell might be starting a few games for the Braves this year.
You know, Braves. You don't see a lot of Boris clients make it to the Braves,
Nope.
and I don't think that is by accident. So I'm like you. I'm glad the front offices are saying, hey, look, we're gonna go get somebody somewhere else. We're not going to let you hold this whole thing hostage. You're not holding us hostage. We're going to go do what we can to make our team better. Um, and yeah, I want the guys to get a fair deal. But I don't think 9 years, $270 million is a fair deal for Blake Snell and what he is. So, all in all, like I said, I'm glad it's heating up a little bit. I'm interested to see if and when those guys sign and what that looks like when they do. And otherwise, man, I'm ready for 2 weeks to pop off and the spring training for them to report to spring training.
Yeah, super excited about that. One guy who's not going to be at spring training for the Braves this year, Colin McHugh, who spent the last 2 years with Atlanta. He did announce his retirement the other day. Sean, I don't know if you have any parting words for Colin McHugh. He had a really good 2022 for the Braves. Kind of iffy last year, but was always a veteran arm to look at in the bullpen. Any thoughts on him deciding to hang him up?
Yeah, man, he was. If you watch him pitch, he was very much the almost the anti prototype of what you see in a reliever now. And so, I think in his retirement post that he made, you know, he was told a lot of times like you're never going to make it, and so he did. And I always think stories like that are cool. And he was always whatever the Braves needed him to be. He was willing to come out if he needed to come out in the fourth inning and throw 3 innings or three and a third. He was willing to do that. If he needed to throw a seventh or an eighth inning, come in a high leverage spot, he was willing to do it. And so, he did his job. He showed up and he always kind of left it out there. So I've got wish him nothing but the best. Hope he enjoys retirement. I read it was 16 or 17-year career. That's how long he's been playing, so baseball. So yeah, like I said, I wish him nothing but the best and, go enjoy a golf course or go enjoy, whatever it is that you want to do now that you don't have to, play in 60, 70 games a year.
Yeah, absolutely. If and yeah, me wanting to hit a golf course now, man. Ah, man. All right, we're close. We're close. But yeah, Colin McHugh, will always be appreciative for exactly what you said. You ask him to do something, he does it. He's an old school guy in that way. He's an old school pitcher. He if he wanted to come and coach, he could be a bullpen coach soon, if not now. So maybe even the Braves end up doing that. They could bring him back and throw him as a pitching coach down in the minors, or give him a spot somewhere on the staff in case he doesn't want to leave the game of baseball completely. So good for him on that. We're very excited for him to enjoy his retirement, and we're also very excited. I had a segue there. I was going to say we're very excited. We are very excited for a few members of the baseball community who got into the Hall of Fame this week. But as Braves fans, we also have some bones to pick with people. So let's give some flowers first. Let's acknowledge the three guys who did get in. Adrian Beltre, nearly unanimous. Of course, a few members of the BBWAA think they're bigger than the game and decide not to vote in guys every year just as a way to prove their point of whatever their point is. I refuse to listen to them. So a few people decided that Adrian Beltre was not worthy of being in the Hall of Fame, but enough people did that he is going to be enshrined in Cooperstown, as well as Joe Mauer and Todd Helton. Beltre and Mauer, I believe, were first ballot, and Helton was his third year on the ballot. So third or fourth or second or something like that. But those three guys get in. Sean, any of those guys you don't think should have made the Hall of Fame? I think those three guys were all very deserving of that honor.
Yeah, I mean, I think all three of them are Hall of Fame players. It's one of those things, like you said, we've got bones to pick, and it's not to diminish Todd Helton or Joe Mauer, but if they're a Hall of Famer, how is Andrew Jones not a Hall of Famer? If they're a Hall of Famer, Mariano Rivera is a Hall of Famer, and Billy Wagner's not. Those are my two bones. And heck, even Gary Sheffield. I saw a bonehead on Twitter that got a vote, and he voted for Sheffield last year, didn't this year, and said, "Oh, I can always vote for him next year." Like,
Oh yeah,
no,
great.
this was his last round of the ballot. Like, yeah, exactly. And so I think all three of those guys deserved to get in. It's a shame Sheffield doesn't have another shot. Wagner missed it by like 5 votes, I think. So next year's his last year. He'll get in. I don't see any reason why he won't make it in next year. And Andrew is still trending up. He's got 3 years left. He was at 61.6% this year. Um, I think he gets in. I don't understand. I don't I don't understand why it's taken 7 years and he's still not in. 434 home runs, 5-time All Star, 10-time Gold Glove, 1,900 hits, 1,200 RBIs. He won a Silver Slugger in the outfield, which is hard to do. And he's won a. So there's. I'm going to see if you can name these. You had a trivia question for me, Dave. You're the baseball mind. I'm going to ask you this question here. Okay, you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
There are 3 players in MLB history to have hit 400 home runs
Mm-hmm.
and have a 20 or higher defensive WAR. Do you know who those 3 players are?
Oh boy. So I'm gonna assume Willie Mays is one of them.
Nope.
Wow. Okay. 400 home runs and 20. Jeez.
Okay, so I'll tell you this. I'll give you a hint. You gave me some hints. I'll give you a hint. Okay, 2 of the 3 are infielders that play the same position. That played at least at some point in their career. They've played the same position.
Wow, this is a tough one. 400 home runs and you said 20 defensive runs. What was the other stat? 20 defensive runs
20,
saved?
20 defense WAR, D WAR.
Oh, D War.
Had a 20
Wow.
plus D WAR.
Eek.
I'll give you another hint. I'll give you a hint about the 2 infielders. Okay, one of them was voted in this year.
Oh, that must be. I would assume that would be Mr. Beltre then, because I don't think it's. Yeah. So Adrian Beltre.
Adrian Beltre. All right. So the other guy played, at least for part of his career, played the same position as Adrian Beltre, and he has a major league record that will never be broken.
Wow, a major league record though by a third baseman.
I'll say the left side of the infield because he didn't just play third base. He shifted to third base.
You have to give me that one, man. I'm losing track.
Cal Ripken.
Who? I'm sorry.
Ripken.
Oh wow, I would have never guessed Ripken. Wow, well, good for Cal Ripken.
Yeah.
He's always better than I expect him to be. I always look at stats and I go, wow, Cal Ripken was really good. I know he was really good, but he was really good.
I was thinking of his Iron Man record.
Yeah. I was thinking about third baseman, but you're spot on. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great list to be in. The only outfielder in that list.
You know who it is?
Probably Andrew Jones.
Yeah. Andrew Jones. Yeah. So he's the only outfielder to top the top 50 in D WAR for a career. He's like 27th, I think. Only outfielder to do that. And he's only one of 3 players to have those specific stats. And he's not in the Hall. And I guess maybe because his last, his 30s weren't very good. But I'm like, dude came up at 19. He played 12 years in the league before he turned 30.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, and truly, I was going to say that. I mean, it really is. It's mostly the Dodgers year. He signed that big deal with the Dodgers and had easily one of the worst seasons I've ever seen a player of his caliber have. He batted less than 160, hit 3 home runs in 75 games, and the Dodgers, after 1 year, were like, done. Bye-bye. Get out. He is to the Dodgers what, like, I mean, name the one guy that went to the Braves and had his worst ever numbers. I mean, that's,
McLeod.
Yeah, Nate McLeod. He is their Nate McLeod. so, so Andrew Jones and Nate McLeod just got compared, and we're wondering why he didn't make the Hall of Fame. I think we answered our own question, but no, I mean his numbers in Atlanta are incredible. I mean, there's nothing you could point at and say and give as a reason of why he's not in the Hall of Fame, other than the Dodgers year ruined his reputation. And of course, like I mentioned, I have more than enough. I don't even know what to call it. Not anger, because I don't let them bother me this much. But man, I hate the BBWAA and I hate the Hall of Fame. I'm gonna say it just because I feel like there's so many problems with the Hall of Fame that I can't even legitimize it in my head. The home run king's not in there. The hit king's not in there. The most dominant right-handed pitcher of our generation isn't in there. Not best, because Greg Maddux is the best, but the most dominant in Roger Clemens. So I mean, like, what are we talking about? Are we really? Are we really? Even giving anything to the game by not having those guys there. So I don't worry about it too much. But I also want Billy Wagner and Andrew Jones to get that honor, because I'm sure it means a lot more to them than it means to me as an outside fan. They're the ones who put the work in. They're the ones who busted their what for 40 years to get to that level, and they deserve it. Andrew Jones absolutely needs to be in the Hall of Fame. I hope Billy Wagner gets it next year, but Andrew Jones, he is our next Dale Murphy, Sean. I know we didn't talk about this beforehand, but I am officially saying that he is the next great Brave center fielder that we are going to stand and work to the ends of the earth to make sure that everyone knows that they deserve to be enshrined in Cooperstown. They deserve to be Hall of Famers. We love Dale Murphy, and damn it, we love Andrew Jones too, and he needs to be in the Hall of Fame. We'll lead the charge if need be for next year. I'm down for that if you are, Sean.
Yeah, I don't. I think there's plenty of people that are going to help. That would be willing to help lead that charge. You got a lot of Braves fans out there that are less than happy with the fact that Andrew is still not in. But with that being said, every Hall of Famer has one thing in common. Do you know what that is, Dave?
They all play baseball.
Well, okay, two things in common.
What
They
do
all
you
play
got?
baseball, but they all started out as prospects. So look at that little perfect little
Wow,
It's
Sean.
time for our weekly segment, Dirty Dave's Prospect of the Week.
Wow, I love that one, Sean. I am a sucker for a good segue, and I have to say that was elite as elite comes. Very well done there. I have a lot of pressure on myself now to have a good prospect review, and also a proper sending back to you once I'm done with it. So thank you for putting the pressure on. This week we're going to be talking about. I might pronounce his name wrong because I could not find anywhere online on how to pronounce his name. If you know better than me, feel free to stop me after I say it wrong. But we're talking about Douglas Glod, Glod. Douglas Glod, he is an international free agent that they just grabbed a couple of years ago. They gave a pretty big number to. I think he got 2.5 million coming out of Venezuela. He is a 19-year-old outfield prospect with some of the most raw talent you're going to find, even amongst prospects. He is one of these guys that if he puts it together, he could be a very special player. And if he does not put it together, this will be the only time you ever hear of him right now. So mark it in your calendars. Um, he's a very, very raw talent. He's struggled in a few areas, but he's also kind of looked good in other areas. So his stats do not jump off the page at you. He is a solid hitter. He doesn't have a lot of power, but he's a good line drive hitter. He is a solid fielder. He's got good enough speed. He stole a few bags in the minors last year at age 18. But being 5'10", usually those guys struggle a little bit to unless they have elite speed at stealing bases at the major league level. Those extra 3 or 4 inches and the extra wingspan you get from just being a taller person really helps steal bags. He doesn't project highly on that right now. He could be a good contact hitter. Could be a if he puts it all together, a 30-40 double guy maybe. A solid piece of a lineup. His one weakness that he strikes out a lot. like way more strikeouts than hits or walks or whatever it might be. If he doesn't clean up the strikeouts, he won't make it higher than high A, I wouldn't think. But if he cleans up those strikeouts, can keep putting good contact on the ball when he does make contact, keeping those line drives, he could be a guy that, 4 or 5 years from now is competing for a roster spot. And like I said, if he puts it together, he could be a really good player. So he's just outside the top 10 right now. I believe he's 12th in the Braves system. And a name to watch. If he's somebody who does start putting it together, he might fly up the ranks pretty quickly. So that is Douglas Glad. Somebody who does not strike out very often is Mr. Sandman Sean when he makes his bet of the week. I did it. Yeah, baby, I did it. Boom! Look at us, Sean. They said we couldn't do it, and here we are.
Here we are. Two good segues. Back to back.
Mr. Sandman, give us our bet of the week. I'm feeling prime rib this week. How am I going to get there?
All right. So I'm jumping into the future a little bit. Just because I want to make sure that this gets out there.
Okay.
Obviously, there's a big football game coming up in a couple of weeks. So we're going to hop right into the Super Bowl for our bet of the week this week. We've got some pretty good odds on a couple of lines in that game. And so I'm doing, because it's the Super Bowl, you got to go big or go home. You know what I mean? So, like, you've got to get that 7-layer bean dip for the Super Bowl. We're going with a 7-layer parlay here for the Super Bowl. Okay. So to start with, for those of you, hang on, let's backpedal a little bit. This is not gambling advice. This is not financial advice.
No.
This is none of those things. If you have a problem, call the hotline. Like Dave always says, know what you can lose. Don't ever bet any more than that. So, not gambling advice, not financial advice, but this is our 7-layer parlay for the Super Bowl.
Wow.
So on DraftKings right now, if you put this bet in tonight, the total line would be plus 2,600, meaning $10 pays out 270.
Wow.
So, and these are some pretty good bets to take here. So, I used an alternate money line to start. We're going to take the Chiefs plus 7. I think the Chiefs keep it that close. Mahomes, Kelsey, those guys have been playing great. They held the Baltimore in check. Their defense was good yesterday. So I'm taking the Chiefs plus 7. That's a minus 366. I'm taking 2 anytime touchdown scorers. Taking Christian McCaffrey and Travis Kelsey. McCaffrey has scored in almost every game. Kelsey has been lights out in the playoffs so far. I think last night he went. I think he had 11 receptions and a touchdown on 11 targets. So taking those two as anytime touchdown scorers, McCaffrey's minus 210, Kelsey's minus 120. I'm taking Brock Purdy passing yards over 247.5.
Wow.
Purdy looked really good against Detroit, especially in the second half last night. So I'm taking the over on his passing yards, which are 247.5. That's a minus 115. And then his rushing yards. They got his rushing line at 11.5 yards. Okay. He ran a bunch last night. So I'm taking over on 11.5. That's a minus 130. Mahomes, I'm taking the over on his passing number at 260.5. That's minus 115. I think this is going to be a shootout, high-scoring game. Their offenses are really good. So I've got him going over, and then I'm actually taking the under on McCaffrey's yards. It's at 90.5. I don't think he gets to 90. I think he probably stays in that 70 to 80-yard range. Deebo Samuel's back, who takes a couple carries away from him. And Purdy kind of did a little bit more passing yesterday too. So those are my 7 picks. Chiefs plus 7, McCaffrey touchdown, Kelsey touchdown, Purdy over 247.5, Purdy over 11.5 rushing, Mahomes over 260.5, and McCaffrey under 90.5. As I said, $10 pays out 270.
Wow, very well done. I like that. We're going to be eating prime rib for sure. I might be able to buy the whole cow at this point. Wow, thank you, Sean. Well, I appreciate it. I like to think that seven layer dip, that 7 layer bean dip started with an over under at 6.5 layers, and some maniac just went right past, got right to 7 right away.
Right
Didn't
over.
even have to sweat it, just
Yep.
went right there. I love it. Very well done, Sean. I appreciate that. I will. I'll be thinking of you while I eat my prime rib after that win. So thank you. Um, so since we're talking about the future right now, and you're talking about your bets in a couple weeks, and we're talking about 7 layer dips, which have nothing to do with what I'm saying. I just wanted to mention it again. If you listened to us last week, thank you. If you did not, you need to go back and listen to that one because we started a little segment. We're going through each position group and giving them projections for 2024. We started with the starting pitchers last week. We had a surprise in there, some hardware being handed out. So if you want to know who we think might be in the running for Cy Young, I did say somebody's going to Cy Young, but I'm not going to say who. So you have to go figure it out for yourself. So this week we're talking about the outfield. Since we were talking about hardware last week, let's talk about the guy who won a little bit of hardware this past season, and all of his friends out in the outfield. We're talking about the outfielders. We're talking Michael Harris, Jared Kelenic, Marcelo Ozuna, and Ronald Acuna. We're doing average home runs, RBIs, and then stolen bases if we think it's worth mentioning. Obviously, one of the players for sure it's worth mentioning. The guy that just stole 70. Probably need to talk about how many you think he's going to steal this year. So let's start off. You know what? I'm actually going to do a different order, Sean. I apologize. I just said we're doing that order, and now we're not. Let's start off, if you're okay with it, with Marcelo Zuna, the DH, who can play a position if need be. Give me a slash line for Mr. Marcelo Zuna for 2024.
All right. So I think that he has another good year. If you take away the first, I don't know, about 10 weeks of the season last year where he was abysmal, you take that away, he had an excellent year last year. So I think he is going to hit around 270, 275. I have him at 272. I've got him hitting 33 home runs with 92 RBIs. So I think he's going to be a good 5-hole hitter there behind Riley, Olson, Riley, and then maybe Murphy. He's going to be somewhere in that 4 to 5 hole there for the lineup. And I think he goes 272, 33 home runs, and 92 RBIs.
We are scary close on the home run and RBI predictions. So I have him not.
And again,
No.
we did not talk about these.
Nope.
We're not doing. That's one of the things I said last week. Gave that caveat. We are not revealing our numbers to each other until you're seeing us tell each other what our numbers are and our predictions are. So completely shooting off the cuff, but
So very funny.
Go ahead, Dave.
So I don't have him with as high of a batting average. I have him at a 255 average, so about 15, 20 points lower than you did. But you said what, 33 and 95 for your home runs RBIs?
At 33 and 92.
33 and 92. I have him at 32 and 90. You can literally see that last 2-run home run that you have him getting, I don't have him getting. Otherwise, exactly the same. So yeah, I have him 255 average, 32 home runs, and 90 RBIs this year. That's actually hilarious. I love it. Yeah, Marcelo Ozuna, you kind of know what you're going to get, especially at this stage of his career. Like you said earlier with Acuna, when you're talking about his future projections, is the power doesn't go first. Power's the last thing to go. I mean, Nelson Cruz is like 43 years old hitting home runs still. Albert Pujols had a second life at age like 43 / actually he might have been like 49 because we don't know his real age. So it's crazy to think that the power's the last thing to go. But that's true. So Marcel, 30-plus home run guy again this year. I feel pretty confident in that. Let's talk about a younger guy who's got a little pop in his bat, though. Let's talk about Jared Kelenic. Now, we did not talk about numbers, but you did say that you were pretty high on Jared Kelenic just in conversation as we were preparing for the show. So let me give my projections first, and let's see how they compare to yours. So I don't have him going crazy. I have him being okay. I have him at a 240 average, which a little bit better than last year. I don't think he's ever going to be a huge average guy, though. I have him at 18 home runs. So I think last year he had 11. So nice little boost to home run production. And I have him at 65 RBIs. When if you have 18 home runs, you assume probably 35, 40 RBIs off those. He drives in a few other runs here and there. So 240 with 18 and 65 for the new Braves outfielder Jared Kelenic. Sean, what do you have for that very same man?
So obviously, like you said, I mentioned I'm a little bit higher on him. I think he has, I think he has a breakout year.
Okay.
I think he has a full fledged breakout year. Kevin Seitzer, the Braves hitting coach, has been very good, getting some of these guys moving their hands, cutting down on some strikeouts with some guys. Um, I'll touch on. Was going to touch on this later, but I mean, Michael Harris, between his rookie year and his second year, his K rate went down 6% between those 2 years. So if you think, that's the big knock on Kalinick is he strikes out a lot. Last year he struck out at 31.7% of the time. So you think if he can get the strikeouts down, then those other numbers are going to go up. That's just kind of how baseball works. So I am projecting, and I'll give you a little method to my madness here afterwards if you want, but I've got Kalinick hitting 265. I think his average jump's pretty good, 265. I've got him hitting 26 home runs. The dude out hits nukes when he hits the ball. So if those strikeout numbers do drop, if he can trim that down into the low to mid 20s versus that 30%, if he can get down there around where, Olson, Ozuna, those guys, 22, 23%, he's going to hit some bombs. The Truist Park plays well for Kalinick. It's a little bit of a short porch there at the Chop House, so I think that goes into it a little bit. So I've got him at 265, 26 home runs, 77 RBIs, and I think he's still 17 bases.
Wow.
I think he's really close to being a 2020 guy, and so I think that's kind of where he goes. And kind of my reasoning for it was in AAA, his first in 21. He hit 320 in AAA, and he only struck out 15% of the time. They brought him up to the big leagues. He hit 181 and struck out 28% of the time. You go into 2022, he hit 295 in AAA, struck out 20.8% of the time. Come up to the majors, hit 141 and struck out 33.7% of the time. 2022 or 2023, sorry, AAA, he hit 306 and struck out 25% of the time. And then he hit 253 in the big leagues and struck out 31.7% of the time. So to me, what that reads as is he is trying too hard when he gets to the big leagues. He felt like he had to carry the load in Seattle. He doesn't have to do that in Atlanta. You can bat him ninth, and he gets to hit in front of the best hitter in baseball, one of the best hitters in baseball. And so I think he also has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. I think he wasn't happy with the way Seattle treated him on the way out. And I think that those things kind of perfect storm for him to have a pretty good year.
Yeah.
So 265, 26, 77, and 17 stolen bases.
Yeah. I didn't even put down stolen bases. He wasn't stealing a lot. I think that I think if he's in the bottom half of the lineup, they're not going to want him stealing too many bases myself. But he could also be the opposite. It could be, hey, we got 2 outs in the inning. We got to get somebody on second base for Ozuna or Murphy or whoever's going to be coming up there. So he could very well be a base stealer this year for sure. Somebody who I did mention their stolen base numbers is Michael Harris. I didn't go crazy on him, but I did mention him because he can steal bags. So I have Michael Harris having a pretty solid season. I'll go first with Harris. I have him batting 310 this year. It's always been a 300 hitter since coming up, so a little bit higher, 310. I have him hitting 28 home runs this year, close to 30. I have him with 80 RBIs and 15 stolen bases. And I think just as importantly is I have this concept that Gold Gloves aren't real, and it's kind of just based on who makes the coolest plays. And Michael Harris made one of the coolest plays of the playoffs last year, really put himself on the map to the casual fan. And so because of that, I think that he's going to play good defense this year. He's a good defender as is. He's fine. I think he'll have decent numbers. I think he's going to win a Gold Glove this year.
Well, so um, we're honestly we're pretty close on Harris also. So I have Harris at hitting
Okay.
303. So he hit 297 and 295 in his first 2 years up, and he had a really bad start last year also. So for the fact that he got to almost 300 after starting that way, I do think he's going to be in that low 300s next year. Um, I have him hitting 22 home
Okay.
runs, so a little bit less on the home runs. But I have him at 82 RBIs because I think he gets moved up in the lineup.
Mm,
He's not going to be hitting ninth anymore. He's probably hitting sixth, maybe
hmm
seventh. So he's going to get more opportunities behind the big guys in the lineup. And then I have him stealing 22 bases. So I have a little bit higher stolen bases, a little bit lower on home runs. But I do think, again, his K rate went down 6% between 22 and 23. I think that trend continues. And I also have Michael Harris the second winning a gold glove.
Yeah. All right. Now we're talking. I feel better about that now. Um, but he's a good fielder, man. I, I looked at the defensive metrics, and they're not as nice to him as I'm being right now. He's average fielder, but again, a lot of times you see a guy just make one or two crazy plays. Like, dude, I'm telling you, man, like in 2015, people thought Yoenis Cespedes was a good fielder because of those two throws he made from the corner. And I was like, guys, he is like the worst fielder in baseball. What are you talking about? He just has a cannon. Um, and that kind of also somewhat describes the last guy we have to talk about. I'm not going to be mean to Ronald Acuna. He's a good defender, great arm. He just likes to make plays that nobody else can make, and then therefore loses a few routine plays in the process. So um, coming off of one of the best stat lines we've seen in a Atlanta Braves uniform all time ever playing the game. A 40-70 season, an MVP season, and also he's entering his prime. I don't know if that's been mentioned yet, but let's talk, man. Let's talk about Mr. Ronald Acuna. Um, I don't know. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being like you think he's going to regress quite a bit, and 10 being like these are eye popping numbers, where would you rank your projections for Ronald Acuna so I could decide who goes first?
So if we were doing this podcast before last season, I would say that these are a 10. But then he goes and puts up video game numbers. And so I'm going to say, in relation to last season's numbers, um, I'm going to say probably an
Okay.
8. I didn't go crazy outlandish, but I have a reason why, and I'll get to that whenever I do share my numbers.
Yeah.
However you want to slice
I'll
it.
go first because I kind of have him slightly not crazy, but I do have him regressing a little bit here. So last week we saved my Max Fried Cy Young prediction, which I hope people left earlier because I just gave away that cliffhanger. Oh man, what was I thinking? Ah, oh, jeez, rough day. It's Monday,
Oh,
guys. Give me a break. But we started off with we ended with those crazy numbers last episode. So let's start. I'll start off this time. I have Ronald Acuna. Just a little slight regression back to the mean, basically. Nothing too crazy. I have him batting 315 this year. 315 is a slight downgrade from last year. I have him hitting 33 home runs. I think that 40 every year is going to be tough. So I have him at 33 home runs. I have him driving in 95 RBIs, um, which is still incredible from the leadoff spot. Just under 100 is wild. I have him stealing 62 bases on the money. 6-2. I don't see him getting to 70 again. I think teams are going to prepare a little differently for him this year. I do have him winning a Silver Slugger, but that's the only hardware I have him winning this year, Mr. Sean. So round us out with Mr. Acuna here. What do you got for the guy?
so I'm going to preface this by saying, after watching him last year, I am aware of the fact that he can do whatever he wants.
Mm-hmm.
If he wants to go out and hit home runs, I mean, there was a point where people didn't know if he was going to get 30, and then he just is like, oh, I'm going to hit a home run every 7 at bats, and pushes out 41. But then also, there was a point where it's like, I don't know that he's going to get 60 stolen bases, and then he runs and pushes out 73. So what I've realized with him is that if he wants to hit home runs, he's going to hit home runs. If he wants to steal bases, he's going to steal bases. If he wants to hit for contact and just hit piss missiles all over the field, that's what he's going to do. So that's where I have him. When I say leveling out, it's more so stealing bases are coming down. I think the home runs are going to elevate just a little bit. So I have him. I have him at 314. You got him at 315. So we're thinking there. We're pretty close there. Okay. Um, I have him hitting 44 home
Okay.
runs. I think he steps up and hits a few more home runs than he did last year. It took him a little bit to get into his power swing, I think. I think he was very focused on not striking out. I think he was very focused on putting the ball in play. And so early on in the year, you saw that like dude almost walked as much as he struck out. I think we like walked 12% of the time and struck out like 16. Like he, so. But I think his power swing. I think he gets that into that a little bit earlier. Gets somewhere in that 43 to 46 home runs probably. I've got him at 57 stolen bases. Again, like you said, I think he dials it back just a little bit, just from a general standpoint. But then I also think that, like you said, teams are going to prepare for it a little bit. Excuse me. And so, but then I have him driving in 113. I think he jumps up and just he's going to be hitting behind. He's got Harris, Arcia, Kalinick. And if I think Harris and Kalinick are going to hit the way that I think they're going to hit, Acuna is going to have more opportunities in the one spot to drive in RBIs. So I've got him at 113 RBIs. And I have him with a silver slugger. And I think if he goes 315 ish, 45 home runs ish, 55 stolen bases, and 110 RBIs, he's going to repeat as the MVP.
Wow. Okay. So you're putting it down here. So we have I think Max Fried wins Cy Young, and you think Ronald Acuna wins MVP.
Yeah.
I love it. I think that's great.
Yeah.
There's very few players that are going to be able to, every year for probably the next 4 or 5 years say they're an MVP candidate, a legitimate MVP candidate. There's really good players. Like, an example of a really good player to me is like nobody thinks, or at least I haven't seen, nobody thinks Juan Soto's walking into this year as an MVP candidate in the American League. He's a really good player, and he could win the MVP. But like, he's not a guy who every year perennially is absolutely like must watch, must see for the award watch every single season. And Acuna is one of them. These award voters, you worry about voter fatigue, but the only other guy who really matches him as far as like saying, well, he's going to be a candidate every single season. There's two, I would say, and that's probably Mookie and Ohtani, who have also won MVP awards, and Ohtani just won one last year. So, Acuna has a really good chance this year. Again, these voters, they love their Ohtani when it comes to MVP votes, man. They just find a way every year. But he does this and this. Well, he doesn't play the field. So let me tell you right now, in 2025, when Ohtani's a good pitcher and he's hitting pretty well, that me, myself, and maybe Sean, I haven't asked him, I don't know, but we're going to be banging the drum for how important defense is and saying that Ronald Acuna does more for his team than Ohtani. And I'm not going to apologize for it. I'm not going to apologize. You're not going to see me saying, taking back my takes. I'm not even going to say it's a hot take. It's just facts of life. And we'll be supporting Ronald Acuna every single step of the way. So that's how it's going to be. And if you don't like it, you should still subscribe to all of our social media and our Spotify and everything. But have a discourse with us somewhere. I don't know. We're on social media all the time now. Sean, before I give all the links and whatnot again, do you have anything else you'd like to add about your projections or any of the hot stove moving forward here?
Well, so my last thing is going to be on Acuna. I don't know that we've ever seen, since Bonds, somebody where you're like, this dude could really challenge for some serious, like, insane video game numbers. I did some crunching today, and if you follow us on Twitter, you see the poll that went up there today. But this is just going to tell you how good Ronald Acuna Jr. is. Okay, so if Acuna, who's only going into age 26 season, okay, so he's 26, if he, and again, if we're talking projecting 55 to 70 stolen bases a year, this average number goes down towards the end. But if he were to average 187 hits, 37 home runs, and 35 stolen bases through his age 37 season, which, yes, they're video game numbers, but we just watched him do 41 and 73. So, like, and he's getting better. So if he were to do that, he would hit 3,000. He'd have 3,000 hits, 600 home runs, and 600 stolen bases. Absolute insanity. That's a chance. Like, nobody puts up these astronomical numbers, and you don't ever look at it and be like, "Oh, that's a great chance," because if it was, they don't pop off the page. If you just think, "Oh, yeah, that's a given," okay. But if he plays till he's 39 to get to 3,000 hits, he only needs to average 160 a year. Like, this dude, if he stays healthy, the ACL thing was probably a freak thing on the turf in Miami more than it was him being like not having durability. But if he stays healthy, dude, he could push for 3,000 hits. He could push for 600 home runs. He could push for 600 stolen bases. And he is a generational talent. And I'm just glad that I get to watch him every day. So my hot take, whatever you want to call it, is I think Acuna finishes with 3,000 hits, 500 home runs, and 500 stolen bases.
Sheesh. Wow.
When all is said and done.
Yeah, I mean, there's nobody else that you look at and you go, oh well. I mean, he might do that. Wow. I mean, even like Mike Trout's not in a position to say you think he's gonna go 500, 500. He's been the best player in baseball for damn near a decade now. So for Acuna to be in a position, and I mean, you're right. As you average, you think, oh well, next 10 years he has to average 35 steals. Well, the next 5 years he could get 70 steals, then he has to have to steal a base for the last 5 seasons. He's already there, and he just got 70. It's not like he can't do it. So, guys like this, especially superstar players, I think of guys like, I'm not comparing these two guys, but like, Alfonso Soriano is a really good parallel, I think, of like at a certain point, either he or his team is going to be like, you can stop stealing bags now, man. Let's be safe, tone it down. I grew up near the Cubs, so I watched Soriano go 40-40 in Washington, and then immediately get signed by the Cubs. And I think he didn't steal 20 bases one time in his Cubs career, because the Cubs were like, no, don't do that. We don't need you getting hurt sliding to second base. Just hit home runs, man. Just hit the ball. So the Braves at some point in time may ask him to do that. But it's not going to be in 2024, I wouldn't think. And if he spends the next few years putting up crazy, crazy numbers, he could get there, man. There's no doubt about it. He has 180 steals right now, so that's 320 steals. Gets him to 500, and he just put up 70 last year. That's less than 5 seasons at that level. Gets him to 500. So it's possible. Is it probable? I say no. I voted outside shot, but probably not on that poll you posted on my personal account. But outside shot is way more than a lot of people have, man.
Absolutely. So I wanted to end with that because when I got to looking at those numbers today, I just thought the fact that there's a player that genuinely has a shot at 3,000 hits, 600 home runs, and 600 stolen bases, as outside of a shot as it is. And heck, even so, another Braves guy on Twitter, Braves Twitter, says that he has according to projections and stuff, he's got like a 5 to 10% chance of breaking Bond's 762. Like, nobody has ever when's the last time you could project anybody to even have a 1% chance of doing that? So like the fact that like dude stays healthy, he's 26 years old. If he does another 15 years of hitting 40 home runs, he's already at 161 right now. So it's crazy to think that we've got a guy that we get to watch every day that actually has a shot at some of these video game numbers. So that's my little spiel. That's my little wrap up to the Ronald Acuna Jr. predictions for this year and for his career.
Yeah. And we're going to be standing him every single step of the way. So Sean, I appreciate the look into Acuna there. I'm very excited to watch him this year. As you mentioned a few times, pitchers and catchers report very soon to spring training. Games start up soon, man. We're almost in February, and the end of February is when games start. So we're like a month away from baseball, man. I'm very excited to get to that point. And I was going to complain about how there's only so much to talk about during the off season, but I think we just had our longest episode yet. So we are alive and strong here at the Battery Mates podcast. We told you all. I mentioned it. I said we were going to keep you entertained all off season long. We don't take time off. I think we took like 1 week off because we had some stuff going on. But man, every other week, we are the Colin McHugh of Atlanta Braves podcast. You ask us to do something, we do it. We're veterans. We're professionals. We do what we got to do. That's until the season starts. Then we're going to turn into Spencer Strider and Max Free. We're just going to be aces out here, man. Let's get it. Don't forget, get on social media with us, man. We're very active on Twitter right now. Our TikTok, we've been dropping more fun content. We're having baseball discussions on Twitter. TikTok, I'm just posting Braves memes basically. Instagram's getting started. Facebook, we're kind of going all over the place, doing a little bit of everything. So give us a follow everywhere there. Give us a like on YouTube. Give us a follow on Spotify. And then for Sean, that's going to bring it to the end here. So for Sean, I'm going to say goodbye for him. I'm going to say goodbye for myself, and we will catch y'all on the next one.